Senators Bernskoetter.
Here.
Present. Searpoy. Present. Beck.
Here.
Present. Black. Present. Bratton. Huff. Razor. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a quorum. We're going to hear one of them's a resolution. We're going to hear 3 bills and a resolution today. Representative Henderson, whenever you're ready, go ahead with 402 or 417. I'll let you pick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Mike Henderson, State Representative, 117th District, Farmington, Bonne-Terre, Deloge area. Here today, the first one, if it's okay, I will do 417, the Upskill Credentials Bill. This bill basically is a bill to grow your own. Right now, we hear from businesses all the time that they're having trouble finding the workers with the skills that they need. So this bill, what it would do is allow them that if they can find the worker that's the right cultural fit, worker that comes to work every day, does the job, fits in with everybody there, everybody likes them, works in, but they don't have the skills they need. They could send them back and try to upskill this person to be a long-term fit for the needs of that business. What this does, it would run through the Department of Economic Development. And the other thing that it does is the Economic Development will use 3 things to try to look at that. The first thing is, let me also say this is a bill that's not a tax credit, it's subject to appropriations. So I want to make sure that that's clear. And what it does is the Department of Economic Development will use 3 factors in there. One is this person upskills, are they going to get an increase in salary? So I see that as a win for the worker also, because if they upskill, they're going to get a little bit higher salary. The second thing is going to be, is it in a depressed economic area? And the third factor is how much is the employer willing to put in for the training? And I think it limits an employer to $30,000 maximum in a year, $2,000 for each employee to try to upskill them. So just think of this: if I've got a company and I've got a young man that works for me, does a good job, but I need him to have more skills in welding, I could send him back. I think there's over 80 credentials currently out there. More are happening all the time, and I could send him back to get some of the credentials I need to make sure he can do the jobs that are needed in that area. So that's the Upskill Credentials Bill. I think in this work environment, it's something that's sorely needed. I'm hearing from businesses all over my area how this would help them to try to do that, because they said we can sometimes find a good worker, good cultural fit, but the skills is the problem. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions on 417.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions? Senator Beck, go ahead.
Morning.
Good morning.
Couple questions. One, you don't really spell out how much money does the employer have to put into the training? How much skin in the game do they have to have?
They do not necessarily have to. It will work like this. Say that I apply and there's not enough applicant. Oh, and I did leave out one important part. We try to hit all 3 levels of employment. So it's a great question. 1 to 50, 51 to 200, and 200 and above is a part of that. So say in the 1 to 50 area, there's not enough people to take all the money, so they may be able to get it without putting any in. So I'm going to tell you that up front. But if there's enough people who apply, then they're going to look at what they would put in to try to upskill these people at that point. So it's really subject to how many people apply. Do I think they're going to have to probably put some in to win some of these? Probably in the end, because I think there's going to be a lot of people try to take advantage, but I can't answer for sure what that would be right now.
And I guess I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if they had some sort of skin in the game too, of training their own employees, that we're not just training their employees for them.
And I think eventually they will be that way. I think enough people are going to take advantage of it that will happen. But it will be, like I said, it will run through Department of Economic Development. They are going to look at that factor, and if enough people apply, I think they would have to. Yeah. But I can't answer that question for sure.
And Representative, I read through this a little bit, and I think Colorado has a program like this. In Ohio, do they have a matching? Do they have a minimum what the
I think behind me they can probably answer. My understanding is that they set it up the same way, but I think the chamber may be able to answer that question for you.
And then the other thing is on the employee, on the boost in pay, there's really no criteria there either. That's, you said they may or may not get a boost in pay after
It's going to run the
training.
same way. You know, there's
Yeah.
3 factors that would get you a higher score if you want to get this money, and that's one of the 3 factors.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Are you working on a substitute for this?
Well, I think they're bringing in a substitute, and that's what I wanted to find out. If you wanted me to talk on what they're looking to roll in, they had the Department of Health and Senior Services had asked that 2 other House bills. They're actually not my bill, but we said we're willing to roll them in as long as it doesn't create a problem. I'm going to be real honest with you. I want the upskill credentials bill done. I feel very strongly about that's going to be a good bill for the workers and the businesses. And Mr. Chairman, I think they'd come to you about it, rolling those other 2 in, and I'm fine with that, and I can give you a background on them, and the department's here to answer any questions too on those.
All right, thank you, Representative. Any other questions? Seeing none, anybody testify in favor of House Bill 417, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Kara Cortes on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In strong support of this, as we all know, workforce is the top issue that businesses are concerned about. It affects their profitability and their ability to grow and keep and retain jobs. To be clear, this is a grant program, a competitive grant program at that, not a tax credit. This is modeled after Ohio's Tech Cred program, which has been wildly successful. In Ohio, when they created the program about 2 years ago, they put probably around the range of $8 million in the fund, and the funds were depleted within a matter of months because so many employers utilize this. And since then, they've had 52,000 residents earn high-tech credentials. Probably not a coincidence that Intel then announced a huge semiconductor manufacturing plant in Ohio, which they cited Ohio being kind of up in front of other states in terms of workforce training. We know we don't have millions of new residents moving into Missouri every year, so we need to make the most of who we have right now. We also know when businesses invest in their employees' professional developments, they are far more likely to stay with that company, again, which is a good thing. We wouldn't be the first state to do this. As Senator Beck mentioned, Ohio, Colorado, Alaska, Utah, Virginia, they have all some type of iteration. To answer your question, Ohio doesn't have a specific match requirement. It is a competitive grant, so it's one of the criteria. I think anecdotally, what I have heard from working with Ohio, most employers put in the range of $800 to the state's $1,200 for these short-term credentials. And again, it has to be short-term, less than 12 months. So not a degree that's going to be funded by this. So employers would have skin in the game, and employers are willing to have skin in the game. When you talk about workforce, employers are willing to do whatever it takes to build and retain jobs. Some examples of short-term credentials that could be awarded within this grant program: manufacturing technology, cybersecurity, welding, certified nursing aides. These are all careers that we have a vital need in. I know specifically in Ohio, they actually cite small manufacturers are the largest recipients of these grants. And we do appreciate in Representative Henderson's bill that he has the different pots of money reserved for small, medium, and large-sized businesses, with our small and medium-sized businesses having the first bite at the apple in terms of funding. So I think there's a lot of good government measures in this bill, and I know from our businesses, wide support. They would love to have this resource, and I think it would do a great thing in securing Missouri's future economic growth as well. So these reasons, happy to support, and I am happy to take any questions the
Thank
committee may
you,
have.
Kara. Any questions for the witness? Senator Serpoy?
Thank you. So you said 52,000 people have got, okay, how many of those were part of the program?
All.
All came through
So
this
they,
program?
yep, they awarded 52,000 grants. So those are for individual employees in Ohio.
What's the average grant size, do you know?
Right about $2,000, because a lot of these short-term credentials, they're not exponentially, expensive. Roughly around $2,000, which is why this grant is modeled at $2,000 as well per employee.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Senator Beck?
And is that part of the CHIP Act that was created through the federal government?
No?
No?
I understand why you're asking that. No, I mean, No, Ohio launching this plant actually, I think, was before the CHIPS Act was passed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else testify in favor, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Ben Terrell. I'm the Legislative Director for the Department of Health and Senior Services. I want to thank you all for your time, and I want to thank Representative Henderson for his time. I'm here to testify today on one of the two bills that was added in the substitute that I think was distributed to the committee before the hearing. The portion that we requested it's called the Primary Resource Initiative for States. This is a program that is designed to help get healthcare workers into the healthcare field. Right now, the state of healthcare access in Missouri is pretty terrible. All but one county is a health professional shortage area, which means only one county in this state does not have shortages in any of the three areas, or the areas that the Department of Health and Human Services measures. If we look at just primary care physicians, only 3 counties are not in a shortage. If we're looking at just primary care physicians, we would have to bus in over almost 600 tomorrow to make ends meet. That would just be meeting obligations, and that is just for primary care doctors. That doesn't count nurses, that doesn't count lab techs, that doesn't count epidemiologists, that doesn't count the whole host of other professions in this area. So what our bill proposes to do is take the PRIMO program, which is, as we refer to it, and pivot from scholarships to loan repayment so that we can recruit established professionals who are already out working in the field to come to underserved areas where they'll fill out their contractual obligation and work in that area. And what we have found is that when you put people in those areas, they tend to plant, develop roots, and stay there. And so on top of that, this also would expand who it would apply to. Right now, the program can only apply to doctors, dentists, dental hygienists, and psychiatrists. And this broadens who it would be able to apply to so that as the needs of Missouri change in their healthcare workforce issues, we would be able to adapt to that and get the resources out there so that we can get folks out there working to serve the health of Missourians. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Ben? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else testify in favor?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Wes Sutton, Legislative Director, Missouri Division of Professional Registration. I have the other piece that's being added into the sub. Right now, we have a nurse loan repayment program that works through DHSS. In concert with the piece Ben was talking about, those nurses would be moved over to the new PRIMO program that's being expanded. Right now, the funds that pay for the nurse repayment program come from a surcharge on nursing licenses. With our piece, we will be moving the money from that old repayment program into the Nursing Education Incentive Grant Program run by the Board of Nursing. So this would create a $1 million amount that is for the Board of Nursing for grant programs throughout the state. What we're able to do each year is target where we're seeing a nursing shortage throughout the state of Missouri. Say we have a part of the state where we have 100 students looking to go to nursing school, but we only have 80 slots available. That school would be able to apply for a grant through the Nursing Education Incentive Program and be funded through there. This would create a stable, consistent funding source for that and kind of give us a lot more flexibility to find where our shortages are in a given year and be able to help fill them.
Thank you for
Happy
your
to take any
testimony.
questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else testify in favor?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Nikki Strong with Missouri Healthcare Association, here to go on record in support of this. I think, as Kara indicated earlier, this would help us with our significant certified nurse assistant shortage that we're facing across the state. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Anybody else testify in favor?
Good morning. David Pierce, University of Central Missouri. We'd like to go on record in support of House Bill 417. Over the last 10 years or so, we've trained over 6,000 students in industry recognized credentials, industry recognized credentials, many in Senator Searpoy's district at the Missouri Innovation Campus. And I think anything that we can do to give people more educational opportunities and more credentials is a good thing. So we would certainly be in support of the bill.
Do you have any credentials for Senator Huff?
He's doing okay. All right.
Any questions for this witness?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else testify in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chair, Rob Monses, Missouri Hospital Association, going on record in support of House Bill 417. The healthcare shortages, as represented by the Department of Health and Senior Services, are a pain point for many of our members, and we appreciate them being included in this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Anybody else testify in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Kent with the Missouri Bankers Association. Just want to go on record in support of House Bill 417.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Well, you can ask.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Matt McCormick, President and CEO of Columbia Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your time this morning. We wanted to go on record. Workforce development is one of our top priorities at the Chamber and in Columbia. Through surveying and talking to our 1,000 members that represent a little bit over 50,000 employees in our area, this is the number one topic, this is the number one issue that they're all dealing with. We're finding those companies that have already invested in upskilling and reskilling their employees are seeing profitability, seeing better work environments, and all the positives that you have heard already. So we just wanted to go on record and saying that we strongly support this and ask for your support. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else testify in favor?
My name is Ryan DeBoof. I am with Missouri State University. Want to go on the record in support of this bill, and we actually have awarded credentials to Senator Huff. So happy to answer any questions.
Can you elaborate? He's under probation.
That's right.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Anybody else testify in favor?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bill Shuhai representing Microsoft, and we're here today on behalf of our LinkedIn subsidiary. And LinkedIn offers a lot of upskilling opportunities to employers. Missouri State employees have access to LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning. So those 80 or so credentials that Representative Henderson mentioned, a lot of those are available through LinkedIn Learning. And it's a great bill, and we applaud the Chamber for bringing it to the table.
Thank you very much.
Here's a copy of those credentials that you can, I'll turn it in with my witness form.
Thanks,
Thank
Bill. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, Jorgen Schlemeyer, here for testimony and not inquiry by Senator Lincoln Huff. On behalf of Missouri Dental Association, Pharmacy Association, Missouri Assisted Living Association, Greater St. Louis, Preferred Family Health, others that I'll put on the form, great bill, echo all the comments, especially Department of Health and Senior Service Professional Registration, that they hit the nail on the head for, so thanks.
Thank you. I've never heard anybody say that about Wes before.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Michael Grote, registered lobbyist, appearing on behalf of Western Governors University. We also support this legislation. We are in the process right now of actually dividing all of our curriculum out into stackable credentials, specifically in the areas of cybersecurity. So we are very supportive of this type of legislation.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions? Thank you. Anybody else testify in favor?
Good morning. Katie Gamble here in support of the bill and the loan repayment portion on behalf of the Missouri Center for Public Health Excellence. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Anybody else testify in favor? Anybody testify in opposition? Anybody for informational purposes only? That concludes the hearing on House Bill 417. I move we enter executive session. I have a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. We're in executive session. Senate Joint Resolution 46 is Senator Black's bill dealing with the Sheriff's Retirement Fund. I move that Senate Joint Resolution 46 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The bill is before the committee. I move that Senate Joint Resolution 46 be voted out of committee. Do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor? Matt, please call the roll to vote. Not necessary. Senator Black said discussion's not necessary. Matt, please call the roll to vote out Senate Joint Resolution 46 out of committee.
Senate Joint Resolution 46. Senators Bernskoetter.
Aye.
Aye. Searpoy. Aye. Beck. Black. Aye. Black. Aye. Bratton. Huff. Aye. Razor. 5-0.
5-0. I move we exit executive session. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. We're out of executive session. Representative Henderson, back to you. Definition of a hospital, House Bill 402.
Mr. Chairman and committee, again, Mike Henderson for the record, representing 117th District. This is the Rural Emergency Hospital Bill. Pretty simple. In Missouri, 15 hospitals have closed since 2014, 10 of those being rural hospitals. In 2021, the federal government passed the Consolidated Appropriations Act, which went into effect in 2023. Basically, what it does is if rural hospitals who are in financial trouble are struggling to stay afloat financially, can qualify for almost up to $3 million per year if they are willing to become a rural emergency hospital. A few things they have to do: 50 beds or less. They have to have a 24-hour pharmacy. They have to have a 24-hour lab. And they can't keep patients for over 24 hours. They have to have an agreement with a level 1 or level 2 hospital that they can refer them to. The winning part of this is a lot of these rural hospitals are closing. I'll give you an example. In Iron County, their hospital has been in some financial problem. If that hospital were to close, there would be people that could be an hour and a half away from their nearest hospital. And in my opinion, that's way too far. And so this would let some of those, and again, they do not have to do this. If this bill passes, all it does is allows rural hospitals to decide if they want to become a rural emergency hospital and qualify for those funds. Don't have to. Some of them won't. Some of them are doing well financially. But the ones who are maybe struggling, or they think it's to their benefit, it would allow them to do that if they so chose to. That's all this bill does. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions for the witness? Senator Serpoy, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us discuss this. I appreciate that. So there's standards, of course, federal standards to become these different levels of care. Is that true? I mean, if a hospital determines, one of your hospitals determine they want to do that, there's cost included or costs involved to become that quality hospital?
They strictly get to make the decision if they want to go to this designation that would qualify them for the federal funds. And the large hospitals then become a feeder to the larger hospitals, but they do not have to do that if they're doing well.
But to do that, they have to spend funds there's something they have to do to become that status, right?
They do. They have to go down to 50 beds or less. They have to have a 24-hour pharmacy, a 24-hour lab, and average patient stay is 24 hours. There may be a time, but those are the major things that they would have to accomplish to become a rural emergency hospital.
Okay. And as far as the care they give at the emergency room, does that change at all, or does that stay? Or?
I do not think it, to my knowledge, it does not, but I think there's some people who could probably answer that question coming up.
Thank you, Representative.
Senator Beck, you had a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So this excuse me, this would be the same as the federal definition of a hospital?
Well, I know it's falling under the Federal Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, so my guess would be yes, that's probably true, and I'm going to guess that there's a gentleman from the Hospital Association can probably answer that question better, but I think so. because we're really trying to fall in line there to let them tap into these funds that are available from the federal government to make sure we don't have more of our rural hospitals closed is what we're ultimately trying to do.
And if you want to have a discussion on why the rural hospitals closed, I'll be more than happy to have that discussion with you. Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Anybody testify in favor of House Bill 402, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Rob Monses, Missouri Hospital Association. I think I'm the guy that he was talking about, but a little nervous about that fact pattern. But we appreciate Representative Henderson bringing this forward. I believe one of our members in his district has an interest in seeking and obtaining this designation. It's unclear to us how many will, but as he said, it is a voluntary a thing on their part. He's done a great job of presenting all the information. I would just suggest that it is difficult to operate a hospital in the rural parts of America and the rural parts of Missouri. The payer mix in our rural parts of the state are complicated, and many of our hospitals in rural Missouri operate on a negative margin. And so I think what the Congress intended to do was to relieve some of the pressure associated with some of the costs in operating critical access hospitals in the rural parts of our state. This is a designation that some hospitals can take advantage of to move forward in a more profitable way and to continue to provide the needed emergency department services and outpatient services in rural parts of America. So I will note for the record that 8 states, including 5 neighboring states, have passed this designation so far: Arkansas, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. And we appreciate the efforts on Representative Henderson's part to move this forward. With that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions? Senator Black, go ahead.
Thank you. In my district, have you guys done any kind of survey to see whether there's any hospitals that might be interested in taking advantage of that? And if you have, do you know any in my district? You don't have to say which ones, but do you know how many might be interested in it? And then the last part of that is probably my hospitals are associated with a bigger sister hospital somewhere. This is important to them, but it's not as critical as some of my independent. If you know that some of those numbers are what I consider an independent hospital, and you know how I define that, will it help any of those?
So we have not conducted a survey specific to this yet, Senator, but I would say that the critical access hospitals in your district, of which there are a considerable number, they would have the opportunity to do this. There is some cost, as Senator Serpoy referenced. There would be some cost and administrative rigmarole to go through that, and it's not for everybody. We were in Washington D.C. in the fall and had a presentation to our group on this new designation, and it's going to be a case-by-case situation. I'm not familiar with any specific hospitals in your district that have reached out to us on that. But if we get a sense for that, we will certainly let you know.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else testify in favor?
Mr. Chairman, David Winton here on behalf of BJC Healthcare. I want to go on record in support of the legislation. We happen to have one of the hospitals that's being discussed right now, and think this is a really, it's potentially a very good tool for us to be able to move forward with that hospital and keep it sustainable.
Thank you, David. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else testify in favor?
Kara Korches on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, also in support. We do hear frequently from our local chambers in rural areas. Hospital closures are a big concern. Obviously, having access to health care is also important for economic growth. For these reasons, we're in support and happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions? Thank you. Anybody else speak in favor? Anybody opposition?
Still asleep, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Jorgen Schlemmer on behalf of the Missouri College of Emergency Room Physicians in support.
Okay. Any questions?
Thank you.
Anybody in opposition? Anybody for informational purposes only? That concludes the hearing on House Bill 402. Next up, we have Senator Carter. Come up whenever you're ready.
Chairman Bernskoetter and committee, I'm Senator Jill Carter from District 32, here to talk to you about SJR42. Whenever there are overreaching violations of a constituent's civil liberties or the federal government attempts to impose unconstitutional laws, there is a hedge of protection. Sheriffs are the backdrops against the ever-increasing overreach of government, most importantly because they recognize the Constitution of the United States in concordance with state constitutions to be the supreme law of the land. Missouri sheriffs currently are statutorily elected positions in which they do receive their authority under the Constitution of Missouri or the will of the people. Missouri sheriffs have always stood up for the people of Missouri. Adding them to the state constitution will aid them in their ability to stand in the gap. At this time, Missouri legislators could effectively wipe out the office of sheriff or move to a state police model without the people's consent. By moving to a constitutional sheriff, the sheriff's office and duties would be protected under the state constitution and the will of the people. For these reasons, I ask for your support for SJR42.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? Senator Serpoy?
Thank you. Is anybody doing this? I mean, is anybody trying to get rid of sheriffs?
Oh, well, I would hope not.
Well, I
but
mean-
you're seeing across the country. Missouri is one of the few states that doesn't have this as a constitutional position. And so if there ever were a situation where the legislators or the governor wanted to eliminate this position, it could happen. And so this is just an assurance to the citizens.
Has there ever been a bill filed to do that or to do anything?
I'm not sure, Senator. But what the concern is, what we're seeing play out across the country with the weaponization of the legal system, we want to make sure that that could never happen.
The sheriffs aren't part of the legal system, though. They're part of law enforcement.
Right, which protects our laws, right?
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Looks like we have a lot of sheriffs that appreciate all the support. Are everybody going to testify? Not everybody? Okay, all right. Come forward, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Senators, thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you today. My name is Bill Pewitt. I am the Sheriff of Buchanan County, Senator Black. I am also the current president of the Missouri Sheriff's Association, so I'm representing 115 sheriffs. Senator, to answer your question first, this has been tried in Missouri in the past. It hasn't been tried recently, but it has been a current concern by some sheriffs that there would be an effort to remove the office of sheriff legislatively, and the concern would be to make sure that the office of sheriff is a constitutional office and that the sheriffs may stand firmly against any overreach or any other issues that face the citizens of the state of Missouri. So, as representing the as representing the sheriffs of the state currently, I would say that we, as you know, have a very diverse state. We have very large sheriff's offices all the way down to sheriff's offices that may comprise of a sheriff and 2 or 3 deputies. That is very difficult sometimes when there is pressure and other overreach and things that are perpetrated against the office of sheriff. So to make sure that they are protected is extremely important. There's a lot of very dedicated, hardworking men and women that serve in the position of sheriff currently. and we sure support them. This also would address some concerns and stabilize some issues currently facing the Office of Sheriff. And so I know that there are many questions and many other folks here. I don't think that all the sheriffs will step forward this morning, but they are here to support this effort. So with that, if there's any questions that I could answer for any of you, I'd be sure happy to do that.
Any questions? Senator Black, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. I walked in behind you on the way in. You beat me here this morning, by the way. I had been in and dropped stuff off before 8 o'clock, but I was late to getting here. This may be something to answer offline, but we just voted out an SJR that deals with sheriffs and being put into our Constitution.
Correct.
And then SJR42 on the surface seems to be the same thing, codifying that position within Constitution. So I need somebody, and this is my fault, Bill, or Sheriff.
Bill's fine.
Does SJR that we passed a moment ago, if it becomes law, makes it through the process, becomes law, does it also do a similar thing, or are they two completely different items, two completely different places in the Constitution? And I apologize for not doing my own research and finding that out.
You're absolutely fine. And I don't know that I can answer it completely. I will tell you that there are two that have been offered, and they're similar. There's a little different language, I believe, in this one, but I would defer so I don't give you the incorrect, that we could surely discuss the finer points of both.
Any other questions? Senator Serpoy, go ahead.
Thank you. Sheriff, I'm just curious, do you know when that was, that time frame that was? That attempt?
From what I remember, I believe early 90s, and please don't hold me to that
Okay.
date, but some of the older sheriffs have mentioned that it was attempted late in the session one year, and I know that they came down and testified in opposition to that. It has not been in my term or my tenure as sheriff. I do know that it was attempted, and of course some of the concerns that we see across the country, I think we have a very good legislature right now, and I don't think that it would necessarily be.
And so they'd give it to the Highway Patrol, the responsibilities that you guys have with the highway. In that, did they say was the responsibility of law enforcement in these counties that you guys are the only thing around, or was the Highway Patrol going to be the people that took over that responsibility?
You know, I don't know the answer to that for sure. I don't believe that it was. I do know that they wanted to completely do away with the Office of Sheriff. That was the discussion that some of the other sheriffs had talked about in the past.
Okay, I'd never heard of that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you all.
Anybody else speak in favor, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. It's Sheriff Mike Bonham, Osage County Sheriff. I'm here to testify for this legislation, both here and both hopefully the House will advance. Answer your Senator, your question. It was in between 2000 and 2006 when that legislation was proposed to move us to a state police model. We've recently seen Illinois go after sheriffs to take after their license at the governor level. 80 sheriffs stood up against a Second Amendment issue and it was very public. Kansas just adopted the constitutional sheriff in the last election in November, and Missouri, I think they deserve their sheriffs to be voted up or down by the people. It's not that we don't have bad sheriffs, but we probably could say legislators maybe. We could say it across the board. We've seen doctors, so on, etc. But this would protect that office as intel, not me, not the other sheriffs that are here today, but the office itself. To be able to stand in the gap of those things that our country seems to be turning to removing our rights. So I hope that answers your question, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Anybody else testify in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, member of committees, my name is Tony Wheatley. I am the Sheriff of Montauk County, Missouri, and I'm here to speak in support of SJR42 and on behalf of the citizens of my county and the sheriffs of the great state of Missouri. I'm also the Missouri Sheriff's representative for the Western States Sheriff's Association, which encompasses 18 western states and over 1,100 duly elected sheriffs. I'm here to read a letter of support from the Western States Sheriff's Association to this committee in support of SJR42. In medieval times, the predecessor of the office of sheriff, the Shire of the Reeve, was appointed by the king. The Shire had no accountability to the people, and their only focus was to serve the king. In America, the first elected sheriff was in 1652, 124 years before the Declaration of Independence, and 137 years before the U.S. Constitution was implemented. Since that time, 47 of the 50 United States have sheriffs, with approximately 98% of those being elected. The sheriff has often been referred to as the most powerful office in each county, by its very nature to be fair and impartial. The office of sheriff must be independent of all undue influence from other elected officials or special interest groups. The only proven way to assure this independent impartiality is for the sheriff to be a constitutional officer of the county. Bringing the office of sheriff under the Missouri State Constitution provides necessary safeguards and would secure an independent office of sheriff in each of the respective counties, thereby creating an office elected by the people, for the people, and of the people. It has been said that since governments were initially established, that local control is the best control. Providing such an amendment to the Missouri Constitution would continue to this adage in practice by allowing the sheriffs to be elected by their constituents, accountable to their communities, and required to answer directly to their electorate. The people of Missouri deserve the protection of a sovereign and independent sheriff who should be directly accountable to the citizens of the county. As an organization representing over 1,100 elected sheriffs, we urge Missouri legislators to put the power into the hands of the people of the great state of Missouri. The Western States Sheriff's Association, an organization that represents sheriffs from 18 states west of the Mississippi River, including the Missouri sheriffs, encourages the Missouri legislature to adopt a proposed constitutional amendment, thereby placing the accountability and authority for the office of sheriff at the most local level, that of the citizen. As signed by Sheriff Corey Helton, Lee County, New Mexico, Sheriff, the President of the Western States Sheriff's Association.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else testify in favor?
I will leave a copy of
All right, thanks,
the letter
Tony.
up here.
Anybody in opposition? Just to make sure the committee knows you're testifying in favor. Testifying in favor.
In favor.
Okay.
My name is Jim Petty.
You might have a lot of mad people behind you if you testify in opposition.
I have to put up with you all as my senator all the time, don't I? Good guy. Thank you for having us. Looks like we have a big crowd today, and the reason being this is important for us. I am retired. I'm sheriff of Morgan County, 4 terms, and of course live up here now. But appreciate you giving us opportunity to visit with you about this situation that you had nothing to do about creating the problem. But you do have the powers to help the sheriffs, and especially the younger sheriffs. I think I told you last time, I'm one of the old sheriffs, and and there's enough funding to go around till I'm gone. But I'm here really to support the young sheriffs for the future, and it's a big responsibility.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else in favor?
Thank you to the chair and the body, Senator. I'm here more personally. I am a private citizen, and where this entire thing came from was a question I had for Sheriff Bonham. He was kind enough to work with my neighbors and my wife and I to explain in about an hour and a half time of why constitutional sheriffs, or how they work and why they're important. So from my standpoint, and what I've talked with the senator about, is this is more personal for me. Because of what my wife and I have done politically in the state, I'm a target, and so is she, from a federal agency that goes rogue. If I don't have a constitutional sheriff, I'm sunk. They can come in and literally invade my house without the sheriff knowing. The sheriff is my last line of defense as a constitutional sheriff. If he's not put in place, I'm the one that takes it. So I need you guys to listen to me differently, because I'm coming as a private citizen. And I want to thank all the sheriffs behind me for coming in. That's a lot of driving through some terrible weather. And they're here in support of this, and I'm in support of them.
I don't know that we caught your name at the beginning of your testimony.
Craig Rantz, R-A-N-T-Z.
And then I didn't mention this earlier, but if anybody testified and didn't fill out a form, you need to fill out a form. Have you? You got one? Okay. All right, any questions? Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else in favor? Anybody in opposition? Anybody for informational purposes only? Okay. Senator Carter, you have any closing comments?
I appreciate your time, committee and chair. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
I will. Next, we'll have Senate Bill 647, Senator Bernskoetter. Begin when you're ready.
Senate Bill 647. This bill is a temporary framework for funding for the Sheriff's Retirement Fund after the current system was invalidated by the Supreme Court. 647 will allow the Sheriff's Retirement Fund to accept gifts, donations, grants, bequests, and will also allow the General Assembly to appropriate funds for the Sheriff's Retirement System. It also provides for contributions of incoming sheriffs to the fund. 647 will repeal the $3 court surcharge that was overturned by the Supreme Court, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the Senate? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I was just seeking a little clarification, because you did mention that under this legislation we would then be allowed to make direct appropriations to the Sheriff's Retirement Fund. Are you saying that right now the General Assembly is precluded from doing that?
I think you're the chairman of appropriations. You can probably appropriate funds to anybody you want to.
Yeah, and my intention is to shore up their retirement system this year. So
thank you.
Hopefully we don't need any more legislation to get that done, because I plan on just doing it in the appropriate bills. But thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate
Any
your
other
support.
questions? Seeing none. How many people want to testify in favor of this bill? Anybody opposed? Okay. The first person, please come forward to support. Please make sure you fill out a witness form, leave it, and tell us your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Sean Rhodes, registered lobbyist from Missouri Sheriffs United. Want to go on record in favor. Appreciate the appropriations chair's willingness to help us out in a situation that realistically no one caused. It's not anybody's fault. Nobody messed up. It's just a court proceeding. And I'd take any questions.
Thank you. Will you come to my office during the day? I want to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah,
Senator
could
Huff.
you not come to my office today?
You want me to come to your office?
No,
too?
I said don't. Please don't come to my office.
Do not.
Yeah, do not.
I can do that easier than I can go to his office.
Appreciate that.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Any other questions? Any other serious questions? Thank you. Next in
Thank you,
favor,
Mr.
please
Chair.
come forward.
Melissa Lortz with Missouri Sheriff's Retirement System. We were here last week talking to you about our long-term fix. This is our short-term fix. Currently, where we are in statute does not allow us to receive any appropriations from county or state or even have anybody give us any money. So this would ensure that we could get a state appropriation and shore up our retirement fund. Do I need to say anything else? I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, in favor, please come forward.
Dwayne Carey, Boone County Sheriff. Nice to see you again this week. Appreciate the support on SJR46. We and myself appreciates that greatly. So you obviously know about the situation. There's no point in me giving you a 10-minute time speech. I value your time. The big thing is we've got money going out, no money coming in. We need some money coming in. Worry about those that are already retired and, of course, those long-tenured sheriffs. Again, appreciate your support, appreciate your comments, and thank you. Any question?
How many people are retired on this system right now? You know?
There's 200 and some odd. I don't have an exact number. I want to say like 234 that are actually in the system, and then you've got quite a few like myself that are knocking on the door, you know, within the next 5-6 years. I think the funding would run out well before I hit my final finish line.
Do sheriffs and deputies have different systems then?
I'm sorry?
Sheriffs and deputies have different systems?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kenny Jones. I served as sheriff of Montauk County for 20 years. I've been on the retirement board since January of '94. We've been up and down with our finances, well-funded, poorly funded, and this is the first time that we've hit the panic button. But we're to that point, and I think you know the situation. So we appreciate anything you can do for us. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Jones? Thank you, sir. Next in favor, please come forward. Anybody in opposition? Anybody for information purposes? That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 647. We're done, right? The meeting is adjourned.